Testing. All right. You can cut out that other.
Hey, yo, aim. Yeah. Run it up, Blondo.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Central Texas Football Podcast. I'm Kenny Heat, and as always, alongside me is Ryan Fox. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm excited. Man, this is a cool weekend. Some three pretty good games, and there's some bigger 6A games that have some seeding and Temple's playing. We're not really going to go over them, but a lot of big games this week. Playoffs are right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
This is always one of my favorite times of the year is seeing who's going to play who, where they're going to play. If I can go to a Friday night or a Thursday game, or if I can, hit one on Saturday. So I love this. I always find it interesting how these coaches talk to each other and decide where to play. And we talked about that on Coach Haynes' show this week. So kind of my little geek out here. I love the playoffs and how all this stuff goes.
100% too. I love the seating, and we were talking about it a little bit before we got on air. It's one of the most fun parts is kind of seeing how the brackets are starting to develop. A lot of them you don't know till the very end because there's teams fighting for that fourth playoff spot or just for a district championship as the number one seed. So, but the projections are usually pretty accurate, especially when you look at them on Dave Campbell's. And it's always fun to see what the matchups are and try to see the distance between both towns and try to see what's in the middle. You're like, okay, so, this team's going to play, this team's here, they're going to meet at Mesquite Memorial Stadium or something like that. Yeah. So I love doing that. It's kind of a nerdy thing when it comes to high school football, but I think nerd is a good word to describe you and I when it comes to high school football because we love it so much.
Yeah, and sometimes when you clinch the spot and maybe you don't think you're not going to be the district champion, you kind of get greedy and you're like, man, it might be a better bracket if we're number 3, if we're
right.
that 8th seed or that 4th seed, we may have an easy. But man, I think it's just cool if your team's in the tournament, as Coach Bill Parcells would call it, just the experience of going to those playoff games, and it sucks when you lose, and it's great when you see kids that work so hard and they win and they get to play one more week. So it's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, and there's some cases where like, heck, winning a district championship, especially in Region 2, can set you up for a tough playoff path pretty much right away. Like the way things are breaking up right now for Whitney, which again, a team we cover very closely because we do play-by-play and the broadcast for them. Things break out the way that everything's projected to. You may get a Whitesboro or a Palmer in the first round of the playoffs, but then the very next round, there's a chance you'll play a Winsboro or a Gladewater or an Atlanta. So it's just, maybe there's times where even winning a district championship doesn't really give you a good or a favorable path in the playoffs. But I think 3 Division I as a whole is so wide open. And I think especially in Region 2 because there's so many good teams.
Yeah,
Region 3 and 4 are probably more top heavy because in Region 3 you kind of have Fairfield, you have Franklin, and then you have Columbus. Those are probably the top 3 teams out of that region. Which Fairfield, how about that win last week against Westwood?
Yeah.
I know we'll touch on that in a little bit. But then Region 4, you have pretty much Tidehaven and everybody else. That's basically how that one's breaking out. But it's fun to cover a region closely enough like Region 2, where a lot of the teams that we cover are in this region, and it's so wide open. Like, there's just the upper echelon of teams is like, there's like 7 or 8 teams that could out of the 16 teams in the playoffs that are projected to come out of the playoffs in this region. Those top 8, any of them, you can make a case for, hey, they might make a run to the 3rd or 4th round and have a chance to win the whole region. So it's just really fun to cover.
Yeah, and I think Commerce is probably the region favorite in 2.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, there's going to be some really good 2nd and 3rd round.
Yes.
You could have a Malakoff, Pottsboro 2nd round game.
Holy.
Really good. And, so it's just – I don't think there's any easy route. I mean, Yeah, this region's been tougher in the past, probably more top heavy, but I think all in all, there's a lot of solid teams. Like, if say Whitney beats West or West beats Whitney but doesn't score the 17 points, so West gets the third seed. Like, do you want to play West in the first round if you're a 2 seed? No.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good team that scores, almost 40 points a game, only gives up like 13, and if you're going against that as the higher seed, you're going against a 3 seed that is that damn good, especially on defense. That's tough.
Yeah, and
But it,
or a Pilot Point or a Palmer or somebody like that or a Winsboro in the first. If you finish third, so
like we could possibly see a first round matchup of Winsboro and Atlanta,
yeah,
or Winsboro and Gladewater. Like that's a third round matchup, and you're getting it in the by district round. So it's just Region 2 has been really fun to cover, especially really closely all year. Now, of course, a good chunk of the teams we cover in 3A Division 1, a lot of them are in Region 3 as well, like teams like Fairfield and Tig, Cameron Yo, like teams like that. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is also definitely, aside from like, there's like 3 top tier moments of the Texas high school football season. The opening weekend, kind of the last week of the regular season, because in the last week of the regular season, there's a lot of de facto playoff games because there's these teams fighting for the fourth playoff lead. So there's a lot of win or go home, scenarios in the final week of the regular season. So there's a lot of de facto playoff games going to be played this week.
yeah.
So
Whitney played one last year. Last year, the Whitney West game was a playoff game because the winner made the playoffs.
100%, and then that leads into the by district round. So the playoffs begins. That's a high point. And the third high point is, of course, state championship week. That's always a really exciting week, obviously. So yeah, and we're kind of in the middle of all those 3 grand parts of the season. So it's a great time to be a high school football fan.
Yeah, before we get to the Matt Step question of the week, I'm kind of going to piggy up. I haven't listened to Smokey's podcast. He does a statewide high school football podcast, but I did see him tweet something about just all the great running backs, and we've talked about all the great running backs that we've had in Central Texas, and I'm going to read off some stats for you. Okay, Jason Brackens at Fairfield, 14 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pretty nice game. Owen Campbell, sophomore running back at Goldthwaite, 12 carries, 144 yards. Go down to Brody DeLeon, a guy who we've been covering all year, 31 carries, 158 yards in that heartbreaking loss to China Spring. Then Damian Fernandez at Axtell, 15 carries, 146 yards. You go down to Elbert Jones at La Vega. They've kind of been doing a running back by committee, but he had 17 carries, 123 yards. Cavalli Neely, which I'll talk about him in a little bit, 17 carries for 180 yards and a touchdown. Amari O'Brien at Lexington, 16 carries, 155 yards, just on and on. Ahmad Scott at Mart. But there's these 3 dudes. Krishan Gregory, China Spring. Let me pull my paper up here. 38 carries, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, caught the game-tying catch in overtime, which China Spring, we'll go over this, had to get a 2-point conversion. Great game for him. Jaden Lucky, junior running back at Troy, 21 carries, 319 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 15 yards a carry. And then a guy we saw back in week 4, Brian Grissom, 29 carries, 480 yards, and 7 touchdowns, man.
Yeah.
That's the load, and he was fun to watch. It wasn't fun getting beat by him, but he's a fun player to watch. He's going to lull you to sleep with a 4-yard carry, a 3-yard carry, 2-yard carry, then he's going to bust one for 40. He's just not a
he's just
big guy. He's quick.
He can get he's deceptively fast for his size because he's probably 6 foot, maybe 5'11", but he's like 230 pounds. He's built. He's at the 3A level. He's built like a tight end.
Yeah,
and maybe some cases like an offensive lineman, but he is deceptively fast. And what really sets him apart is his strength. Like when you talk about guys who don't go down at first contact or maybe even at second contact most of the time as well, he's just a hard runner. He's a bowling ball. That's just what it goes down to. It's not like he's a short, stocky guy. I mean, he's big. He's got size to him, and again, the deceptive speed. Like he is. I know both those with the rushing yards and the rushing touchdowns shattered the single game records for Little River Academy, who've had solid running backs in the past, like you mentioned, Cavalli Neely.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. Go back to the fall of 2023. Brian Grissom's a sophomore. Cavalli Neely's a sophomore on the same team. Cavalli Neely, as a sophomore, went for 1,778 yards, scored 22 touchdowns for a 10-3 Little River Academy team. And Brian Grissom, he had 48 carries for 315 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Man, those two dudes end up being just all-time badass running backs. And, of course, Cavalli Neely, the next year he transfers to Temple. And he's doing really good over there. I think he's the lead back this year. Last year he kind of split carries, but this year he's just doing really well. And congrats to both of those guys. Cause, man, what a game. 480 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Unbelievable. And it just speaks again to the talent of all these teams in Central Texas, even at the small school level. And again, the guy we didn't even mention, Evan Marino, he's having a fantastic season for Robinson.
Yeah, John Johnson, last week, 10 carries for 166 yards and about 4 touchdowns and a half a play against Griffin.
4 rushing touchdowns, which tied a single game record for Whitney for rushing touchdowns in a game. And he tied his own record. He had a 4-touchdown game last year. And he's also tied with another old running back for Whitney, Kelton Mansfield, played for the team about a decade ago. He's a special player, and he's just among that group of really talented running backs, especially that we have in Central Texas.
Yeah, and you got Jay Sean Johnson, his brother, at Valley Hills. It's just a load, man. I think he's up to 1,500 or 1,600 yards this year running the football. I think they were off last week, weren't they?
I believe so, yeah.
All right, so kind of a Matt Stepp question like we've done. We asked him about a couple of games, so Brian, I'll let you take over, but we'll just kind of fill in as we go.
Yeah, so with Matt Stepp's question of the week, like Kenny said, we just said, give us your thoughts. Give us like a quick little rundown of what you think. And we gave him a list of 3 games. We have DeLeon at Hamilton, Crawford at Rosebud Lot, and then Whitney at West. For the DeLeon Hamilton game, Matt Stepp's answer was DeLeon's offense is just a wagon, and Hamilton this year doesn't have the firepower, so he'll have DeLeon in that one. I'm trying to think the name of DeLeon's quarterback. Is it like Heston Jobe, I think is his name? Yeah, really great player. But Stepp will take DeLeon in that one. And then for Crawford and Rosebud Lot, Crawford's defense has been fueling their outstanding season under first-year head coach Ty Robinson, who came over from Woodville after leading them to a state final last year. The Pirates smother Rosebud Lot, so he likes Crawford big in that one. And then for the Whitney West game, Matt Stepp said he started with just Kobe Haynes and Jonte Johnson. That's it. West doesn't have the explosive playmakers that Whitney has. Give me the Wildcats. So thanks again to always for Matt Stepp for the question of the week, and just that dude's busy as all heck, and we really appreciate him taking the time, even though they're just quick little text messages. We appreciate him giving the time to give us his expert insight on our little special Super Centex region here in Texas.
Yeah, he's been good to us. Every year we've done this, sometimes I'll forget and I'll send him a text about 2 hours before we record, and I'll say, "Man, I'm sorry, but we're going to record in 2 hours." He's like, "All right." So,
like, you want to talk about a Texas high school football nut? That guy, him and Tepper.
Yeah, those guys, they forgot more than
we will ever know.
It's just crazy, but yeah, they're really good at their job. Really good. Hey, China Spring 49, Lorena 47. I got to watch overtime after our game, so it's tied up. Lorena scores in overtime. They've got to go for 2. They fumble the ball. China Spring recovers. They run it back to midfield. China Spring gets the ball. They throw a touchdown over the middle to Krishan Gregory.
Mm-hmm.
They do a little trickery on their 2-point conversion, some kind of reverse option, and they throw it back to Jackson Knapp, the quarterback, and he just kind of walks in for a touchdown. One thing to know is Jackson Blancett played just 1 half. And Lorena was up early, and I don't know what happened, but he did not come back and play the second half. Obviously, that had a bearing on the game. I don't know what would happen if he would have stayed healthy. I think I think I picked Lorena. Maybe I picked China Spring to win that game, but Jackson Blanchett's a hell of a quarterback, and when you lose a player like that, it just takes its toll. I'm sure the coach's kid Johnson is the backup. I'm sure he's going to be really good, but Jackson is just something else, and it's just hard to recover when you lose your dude like that.
Right, and I remember you and I were in the press box up in Whitney, keeping an eye on this one, and I remember you told me at halftime Lorena was up 41-21.
Okay, yeah.
So it was so that means in the second half, without Blanchett, Lorena was only able to put up 6 points, and
that was an overtime.
which set up the stage for this 28-point comeback for China Spring. Either way, it's a fantastic job by China Spring to fight your way back in down 4 scores. But yeah, Lorena losing Jackson Blanchett, not playing in the second half, really hurt their chances to kind of secure that win.
Yeah, and I know the record doesn't show it, but I think Lorena's a good football team. And
I do too.
They're staying home. They got Blanchett, Brody DeLeon, who's a really good running back. Carson Miller's a really good receiver. They got the big kid, the D1 tight end, defensive lineman, and Blackwell. They're going to get, I don't know, I know Blanchett's a junior. I think Blackwell's a junior. So they're going to get some of those guys back. And, depending on realignment, I've heard different things. I think Lorena will stay in 3A. So maybe they'll bounce, I think they'll drop to 3. No, I'm sorry. But I've heard different, I don't know how anybody knows. Like, some people are saying, hey, all the numbers are going to drop this year, because less kids are going to public schools. So everybody's enrollment has dropped. And I know Whitney's has from 424 to 407. So, some other Maypearl and West would drop down to 3AD2 if you had your normal jump in numbers like we've seen in the past. But I don't know that it's going to happen. So,
yeah, and then another game that we talked about last week, and not to toot my own horn, I called the upset on this one as Waco U dominates number 6 Brenham 42-14, and I didn't say that Waco U was going to go out there and drum them by 4 scores. I didn't say that, but I felt confident that the Trojans were going to win that one over Brenham, simply because of the difference in the strength of schedule. Yes, Brenham was undefeated. Yes, they were number 6 in the state, but I think the strength of teams that they played compared to Waco University's was lackluster. I think the university had played much tougher teams, teams like Shoemaker, and it's a great win for the Trojans against an undefeated top 10 team. I can't remember if this one was on the road or at Waco ISD. I can't remember, but either way, it's just an impressive result for the University Trojans.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of stood out to me, of course, London Smith's a stud, D1 kid. They lost that defensive back that's going to Baylor also, who's really good. But I watched Savoy Nichols play a couple of times this year on some Thursday night games or something, and he's a good athlete. It just seems like he just wasn't that accurate. But, man, I watched some highlights of this game, and he really played well. He threw for 353 yards and 4 touchdowns, and London Smith had 10 of those for 171. 3 touchdowns. It always helps when you have a kid like that on your side. Thought Savoy Nichols played well. Probably the best I've seen him play all year. Haven't seen him play every game, but I have watched a lot of their highlights and some of their film. And so I think that's good to have him kind of hitting on all cylinders going into the playoffs. Good for him, and they can be really dangerous in the playoffs. I mean, they got a lot of talent.
I think so too, and it's probably one of the top wins in program history for the Trojans, beating an unbeaten number 6 team in the state. So congratulations to Waco U for that one. I think they'll be a threat in the playoffs as well. And another game that you and I were keeping an eye on very heavily up in the press box last week in Whitney, Grandview defeated West 49-30. It was West's first loss in district play. Actually, they had a 7-game winning streak overall going into that game. And then Grandview takes care of business at home. They got a big-time district win. Yeah, we pretty much had our eyes on this one up in the press box the whole time, and it's kind of back and forth early on, but Grandview was kind of able to pull away towards the end.
Yeah, not taking anything away from West, they just hadn't played anybody since week 1. And
Yeah.
thought, okay, first test since Robinson, let's see what happens. How they can respond because they're going to get punched in the mouth because just that's a big rival. They're a big rivals. They've been in. I think look back since 2016. I think Grandview may have hopped over to a different region a year or two in there, but we Grandview, Whitney, West been playing each other pretty good for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And just they just ran the ball down their throat. Blue Hubbard and Elijah Dominguez, and I saw one drive where the freshman Yentz got in there and they just marched him right down and scored. And then Landers was back in and he marched them down and scored. So looks like Grandview's looking pretty good. Going into the playoffs on a roll. And like we talked about earlier, I wouldn't want to play them in the first round if you're a 3 seed or play them in the second round if you're a 1 seed. That just wouldn't be fun at all.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's something that you and I talked about at the end of the when we called their game against Whitney. That I think you and I agree that they're going to be fine. I don't think that loss against Whitney was going to deter them very much. It hasn't in the past. They're just a really good team. They're really well coached over there with Ryan Ebner at the helm since he took over back in 2019 for Brad Davis, and they've just been good for a long time, especially under Ebner. So they're going to be fine. I think they'll win a couple playoff games, regardless of where they end up getting seeded out of this district, which more than likely looks like they might be the number 2 seed out of District 5 over here, and that should set them up for a pretty favorable path, at least through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So a big win there for Grandview to at least secure a top 2 seed out of this district. And then another game we talked about last week. This one kind of surprised me. Little River Academy 56, McGregor 49. I did not expect a shootout out of this one, Kenny.
Man, McGregor, what's his name? Bubba Zacharias. Just a heck of an athlete. Plays quarterback for him. Can sling the ball. Can run it. They lost by 1 or 2 points to Rockdale. If they'd have won that game, they would be in the playoffs more than likely. Kudos to McGregor for going out there and going basically toe-to-toe with a pretty good Little River Academy team.
McGregor's 1-8, but I think they've gotten better week by week. They're a young team. I think they have a first-year or second-year head coach that's still trying to build something over there. Second year. So they're trying to build something over there. I really think they've gotten better week by week. They've taken their lumps, but I think they've played a lot of close games, especially in this district. So even though with the loss, McGregor's still gotten better week by week. But again, another big win for Little River Academy. McGregor didn't have any answer for Brian Grissom, but a lot of teams haven't. Even in the games that Little River Academy have lost, Brian Grissom has gotten his. He's just that kind of player. But yeah, 56-49, Little River Academy won that one.
We'll talk about him in a little bit, but they got Troy.
Yep.
If they win that game, if McGregor beats Troy, they're the 3 seed in that district.
A 2-8 3 seed.
If they lose, they're out of the playoffs. But if they beat Troy, they're the 3 seed and Troy's the 4 seed. Now it doesn't get any easier because Jaden Lucky's over there at Troy, and they're going to have to do something to stop the run because he's a terrific running back.
100%. And we'll touch on that game later on in the show. But our final game from our Week 10 review, and how about this one? Impressive win for Fairfield as they take down Palestine Westwood by a final of 42-21. I think Fairfield, they're a team that really, outside of the conversations between you and I haven't heard much talk about Fairfield, which is crazy because they're a top 10 ranked team. And they're really damn good. I think the knock might have been that maybe the competition, at least in pre-district, hadn't been super tough for them. So this was like a really big test for them in the latter stages of the regular season. And I think they went out there and just proved how good of a team they are, being a really good team by 21 points.
Yeah, and last year Cole Collins is a great quarterback. He can throw the ball, he can run it. The Brackens kid at running back had a good game last week. they snuck into the top 10 2 or 3 weeks ago, and big win against Fairfield, or not Fairfield, Palestine Westwood, with Kavion Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder how much the hoopla and committing on a Saturday kind of played into just maybe not being
Right.
maybe. But man, Fairfield is a really good team, a top 10 team, favorite in that region. But I
Yep.
don't think you count Westwood out. I think Westwood can beat anybody on any given night with the talent that they have. And that's just a team. Westwood's a team. Everybody knew about them, and they were a top 10 team until Tig beat them 2 weeks ago. So they're on a 2-game skid, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
or 2 out of 3. And but I look for them to bounce back. And
Yeah.
again, do you want to play Palestine Westwood in the first round? No, I don't want to play them in the first round.
Nope.
You're a 2
No,
seed.
you do
You're
not.
Palestine. You're like, what the?
And Kavion Bryant, he committed to Texas Tech. Is that right?
Yeah, Red Raiders.
Red Raiders.
Thank you, Cody Campbell. Appreciate it.
100%. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump into our Week 11 preview. It is the final week of the regular season in 2025. Again, a lot of de facto playoff games, a lot of win and in scenarios. And there's a great article on Dave Campbell's where they had a full list and kind of a little breakdown of each game and all classifications throughout the state that are win and in scenarios and winner goes in, loser goes home type scenario. So again, de facto playoff games, which I think again is another reason why Week 11's, even though it's the last week of the regular season, and a lot of teams they're kind of just playing one last game because they're already out for the season after this week. But all these de facto playoff games make it really, really fun. But before we dive into one of those scenarios, let's go for the other end of the spectrum where two teams are undefeated in district, playing for an outright district championship and a claiming of the number one playoff seed. As a team, a game we touched on a little bit earlier with Matt Stepp, 7-2 Dilion unbeaten in district against Hamilton, 7-2 unbeaten in district. And then again, the winner claiming an outright district title and the number one playoff seed. We talked a little bit earlier about Heston Job, the quarterback for Dilion. They're really good offensively. Hamilton, again, they've been good the last few years, and I think this is going to be a good game. I think Stepp had is projecting a really one-sided game with Dilion, which they have the talent to do so, especially with the quarterback Job. What do you see in this one, Kenny?
Well, with these 3 games that we asked Step about, I just see offense prevailing.
Yeah.
Dilion, Heston Job, he's thrown for 2,300 yards. Got a trio of wide receivers in Burkeen, Cooper, and Jones that all have over 600 yards receiving.
Right.
A pretty good running back in Couch. And then, Halston Hell returned as Hamilton, 1,000-yard rusher last year. He's still doing his thing. Just Hamilton's not what they were last year. Obviously, they graduated some dudes. Had a good year, but I think I'm going to go Dilion on this one.
Yeah, I like the Bearcats in this one as well. But I think, again, like we've said it about a couple teams, do you want to face a Hamilton in the first round of the playoffs or even in the second round? I think despite the result, I think this is it's good on good here. I think regardless of the result, both teams are going to come out better, regardless of the result and what seeding they end up getting. I think for both teams, the team on the other sideline is a damn good team that you're playing, and facing a really good team right before your playoff push starts, whether you win or lose, I think it pays dividends because it kind of, especially when both these teams are going to be the 1 or 2 seed, so they're going to be the higher seed out of the teams they face in the first round of the playoffs. And I think playing a really good team right before the postseason starts, especially in a high-stakes game like this, where you'll really figure out what your team's all about, I think it only pays dividends before your playoff run.
Yeah, and Coach Whitaker over there at Dilion, great job. Come over, was a quarterback coach at South Lake. Then I think he was an OC at Birdville for a year or 2. And he coached at Hamilton. He was a head baseball coach at Hamilton for a while, and he's doing a great job from what I've seen on the forums and the websites that they love him over there, that they like his staff, kind of rejuvenated that program. And it helps when you have a kid like Heston Job who's your quarterback. So good for Dilion. I'm going to give it to the Bearcats in this one.
I'll take the Bearcats as well. and so we'll go down. We'll stay in Class 2A. In Division 2 this time, we have 6-3 Goldthwaite at 5-4 Mart. This game is basically the battle for the number 3 playoff seed. Both of these teams in district have lost to both Chilton and Bremond. Bremon's already pretty much secured their district title. Chilton's going to, already has the number 2 seed as well. So this is the battle for the number 3 playoff seed. But I think regardless of the result of this one, whether you're the 3 or 4 seed, the district that, the one with Goldthwaite and Martyr lined up with, I think even if you're the number 4 seed, you have a pretty favorable matchup. They're lined up with a district that has like Celeste, Linden, Kildare, Detroit, and in the district alone, the teams that Goldthwaite and Mart have had to play against, teams like Frost, who's been a surprise team this year, and again the aforementioned Chilton and Bremond. Yeah. Those 3 teams alone are going to be better than any team you face in the first round out of the district they're lined up with. So, yeah, you'd like to have the higher seed either way, but I think both of these teams will have a favorable first-round matchup in the playoffs simply because of the teams they've already, fought with and played throughout the regular season.
Yeah, I think Mart's kind of found their rhythm. Won a couple of games since they started district golf against Bremond and Chilton.
Yeah.
Ahmad Scott had a great game last week, almost 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. I really like the Quinn Preston kid. I think he runs hard. He's a big dude. He had 134 yards and a touchdown. Damian Davis is kind of their big threat wide receiver. They don't throw the ball a lot. They like to run it. Lauderdale's still there at quarterback. I think, did he play that first game, or was he the start? Was Lauderdale the starter in that first game?
No, whenever Whitney played them in week 1, it was Elijah Smith, and then they kind of had Lauderdale out wide. But I don't know if Elijah Smith got hurt towards the end of the Whitney game because he played all 4 quarters. So if he got hurt, it wasn't like enough to take him out of the game. But Lauderdale started at quarterback like the preceding 2 or 3 games. So he was out for a while with some sort of injury, but he's been back ever since. I know he's been back for all of district. And those first 2 games of district were tough. He's being thrown in the wood chipper right away, basically, with Bremond and Chilton. But they've taken care of business since then and secured at least a playoff spot. But yeah, I think Mart's going to be fine. I think they're on a 4-game winning streak, or 3 or 4 game winning streak now, and especially if they can get this win over Goldthwaite, a team that dominated Mart last year in Goldthwaite. They'll have this game at home as well, which I think will help them out a lot. If they can get this win against Goldthwaite, especially kind of getting that little revenge after losing to them the way they did last year, I think that'll give them a huge confidence boost going into the postseason.
Yeah, 4 or 5 game winning streak going into the postseason. Goldthwaite's not going to be a pushover. They're really, like you said, they beat them last year. Owen Campbell went for 144 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. So not, really solid club in Goldthwaite. But I'm going to give the edge to Coach Lancaster and the Panthers. I think they might have got it together, found something with that rushing attack, and just run the ball, play good defense, and then chew up some clock. And I think that's what they're going to do.
I agree with you there. I'm going to take Mart in this one as well, and I'll take them to secure the number 3 playoff seed and Goldthwaite to drop to that number 4 playoff seed. But I think either way, I think both these teams get a by-district win regardless of where they're seated. But this game will be fun to watch as well as they try to fight for better seeding out of that district. So, and then the game you and I will be at on Friday night, we have 7-2 Whitney at 7-2 West. Whitney is unbeaten through their first 4 games in district play. West took a 7-game winning streak into the Grandview game last week, but Grandview, like we mentioned before, defeated them 49-30. Whitney earns an outright district title if they win this one. It'll be their first since 2019. So that'd be really big for them if they can take care of business. And we mentioned before, players we've seen all season, Kobe Haynes. Since he's taken over at quarterback for Fisher Watson at the start of district in the Grandview game, the Whitney offense has been virtually unstoppable. And on defense as well, throughout district, their defense has been outstanding. They held Grandview to 7. They gave up 13 to Maypearl, but one of those was a garbage time touchdown when the reserves were in. The only kind of outlier there was the Mejia game. It was Thursday night. It was a last-second schedule change. But that's a Mejia team that has gotten shut out, I think, in 4 or 5 of their games this season. And then Whitney wins that one 59-25. And, that's kind of the only outlier. And then they kind of got right last week. They jumped out big in the first half against Groesbeck, 45-0, and then they scored in the opening drive in the second half to make it 52-0, and then kind of just laid off the gas. The defense played great. Groesbeck didn't score a touchdown until like 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. So on both sides of the ball, since district play started, Whitney's offense and defense as a whole have played very well. Like the defense has still struggled a little bit. Like they'll still give up drives, and the big play has kind of been a problem sometimes, especially in the secondary. It was a really big problem in pre-district, but in district they've kind of cleaned it up a little bit. I'm not going to pick this one, of course. Employee of Whitney ISD, I'll be broadcasting the game for Whitney, so I won't give my pick. But this is a rivalry game, and this is still a West defense that only gives up 13 points a game on average. So it'll be a tough test for Whitney, but I think Whitney's offense is just super explosive. I think if nothing else, they have the advantage over West in the speed and athleticism. But West, as we've seen, especially under Coach Woodard, like they've been the last 13 seasons, they're going to be tough, they're going to be hard-nosed, and they're going to play till the echo of the whistle.
Yeah, and man, West, Dub Crane.
Yeah.
So got so much better. Last year I saw him a couple of times. Of course, he's a sophomore. Kind of had that deer in the headlight look, but man, you watch him play this year. He's very accurate. Can spin it really well.
He's been very accurate too.
Good. Aiden Rideout, Kai Cook's a really good receiver, kind of his go-to guy. It's going to be tough. They're playing at West. It's not easy to do.
And they haven't won at West since 2018.
Yeah,
and it's been a while.
The stands are going to be packed. There's going to be a ton of people there. We're so close that we know. Everybody knows everybody, so it's cool. I think this is the type of game where I think Coach Haynes is going to want to run the ball a lot and just impose his will. I think you're going to see maybe early on, or if it's needed, you're going to see Kobe Haynes and Jonte Johnson and KJ O'Hearn play a lot of defense. Because West can throw the ball, and Whitney's kind of had trouble in that secondary. So I think it's all hands on deck. And I kind of feel like the other folks, I just, Whitney's got too much firepower. I just don't think that you can contain Tay or Kobe all game. That they're gonna get theirs. They're gonna break a couple. And Kobe hasn't thrown the ball a lot, but he can throw it. He's got a good arm.
Yes,
he's thrown the deep ball well to KJ and hit Tay last week. So it's a rivalry game. There's anything can happen. Back when Whitney was struggling and West was really good, West would beat Whitney 14-6, or one game was 14-12 and Whitney didn't make the playoffs. So it's always a tough game. Whitney's kind of had their way with them the last 2 years, but then before that, West was on a four-game winning streak. So I'm going to go with Whitney. I just think they're just too much. I think the defense can play good enough to keep Whitney in the game, and I think was it Step and one of his write-ups hit it on the head. May be close for a little bit, but I think eventually Whitney's just going to pull away.
Yeah. So it'll be a good one. West will be fighting for, again, if that three-way tie, because I think they have to beat Whitney by at least 17 to have a chance at the number 1 seed.
Yeah. So if they beat Whitney, so it's a point deal. 17 is the cap. So Whitney beat Grandview by more than 17. Grandview beat West by more than 17. So if West beats Whitney by more than 17, then it's a three-way tie, and they'll go to a coin flip to decide the seeding. So
all right, so that'll be interesting to see. But if if Whitney wins, period, they don't have to win by a certain amount of points.
No.
But if they just get the win, they'll be undefeated in district and claim an outright district title. So that'll be an exciting game to watch. It'll be rivalry game, final game of the regular season. Whitney's going to be fighting for their first district title in 6 years. I think a couple of news stations are playing to be at this game as well. So it'll be highly covered. Both stands will be filled to the brim. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Can't wait to call this one. It's going to be a great game. But let's move on now back to a game we touched on earlier as well down in Class 2A. Another game where both teams, like back in the first game we mentioned, De Leon and Hamilton, both teams are undefeated in district play, and they're fighting for an outright district title and number 1 playoff seed. 8-1 Crawford at 8-1 Rosebud Lott. And this is going to be an exciting game. I think this is a great coaching matchup with Brandon Hicks and Ty Robinson. What do you see in this one, Kenny?
I know Step went with Crawford, but I'm going with offense this week. I think Rosebud Lott, the job that Coach Brandon Hicks has done down there in his time, I really like it. I think he's a really good coach. Price Raybroker has been starting, I believe, since he's a freshman. Zaylen Wells is a really good running back. He's had over 1,000 yards. I think that offense can go, and I think that they're going to give Crawford the type of problems that Axtell did.
Yes.
They're very athletic. They're very fast. And, Coach Robinson's doing a great job at Crawford. Has them in line for a district championship in his first year.
Yep.
And now they did go to the area playoffs last year. I think they were 3-8 or 3 they were. But, they're on their way up. Just don't think they're quite there yet. I'm going to go with Rosebud Lott for the district championship.
I like the Cougars in this one too. This one is kind of a coin flip for me. I can absolutely see it going either way, but someone's telling me I like Rosebud Lott's offense too. Now Crawford's defense has been really solid most of the year, and that's something that we saw. That's kind of what Ty Robinson's philosophy has always been. That's kind of how he got Woodville to the 3A Division II state championship game last year. Woodville's defense last year was really good. I think they only gave up like 12, 13 points a game until they ran into Gunner in the championship game. But no one doesn't seem like anyone can stop them, at least in their own classification. But I think this is going to be a really big test for Crawford in that defense. I mean, this is a coin flip type game for me. The stakes are high. Both teams are undefeated in district play. They're fighting for the number 1 playoff seed and an outright district title. But I like Rosebud Lott in this one too. But I would not be surprised whatsoever if Crawford takes this one.
Yep.
And then so our final game of our Week 11 preview, our last regular season game that we will cover in 2025. And again, we touched on a little bit earlier as well. 5-4 Troy at 1-8 McGregor. Now, we talked about earlier with McGregor, they've kind of gotten better each and every week. And even though they only have one win, a win here against Troy would give them the number 3 playoff seed.
That's what I read in the Waco trip. Michael Haig does a great job of researching all that stuff. And, I just kind of had after they beat Cameron, I thought, okay, well, if they beat Rockdale, they're probably going to get in the playoffs. Well, they lost to Rockdale by 1 or 2.
Yep. Close game.
And then I think they went off to play Franklin or somebody, and then played Little River Academy really close. I don't know if Little River's up by 21 and they scored 2 quick touchdowns at the end to make it look respectable, but still probably did a lot better than you thought they were going to do coming in.
Right.
So, Bubba Zacharias, really good athlete, can run the ball, throw the ball. We've talked about that. Jaden Lucky at Troy. It's not going to get any easier for the Bulldogs on defense because that dude can go.
Mm-hmm.
He rushed for 300 yards last week. I think he's got over 1,700 yards for the year. So they're going to have to do, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to slow him down just a little bit. They got to, Troy's got a good quarterback in Hunter Fryman, and then Cohen Ketchum, little brother of the Ketchum that was there a couple of years ago. There's a really good wide receiver. Well, he's there, so their offense can go, but they've given up a lot of points. So I think this is going to be another high-scoring game. 40s and 50s or something like that. And I would definitely consider an upset if McGregor won, but I wouldn't be surprised. They're getting so close and getting so close,
mm-hmm.
like they're kind of due. So I'm not going to pick McGregor. I'll pick Troy, but I think McGregor's got a puncher's chance for sure.
Yeah, I like Troy in this one, especially when you look at what Brian Grissom did to them last week. Again, nearly 500 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. I don't see them, because Troy's running back. What was his name again? His name slips my mind.
Jaden Lucky.
Yeah, Jane Lucky. Yeah, Jane Lucky is a really damn good running back in his own right, and that's. And when you look at Academy is kind of they're run first because they have Brian Grissom, but Troy can beat you through the air as well. I think McGregor will keep it competitive for 2, maybe 3 quarters, but I think Troy pulls away just because they can. In this exact scenario, I mean, they might not have to throw it. Maybe Lucky will just have another big game against McGregor, just like Brian Grissom had last week. But I like Troy in this one as well. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means, but I think they'll win comfortably, maybe 14 to 17 points.
All right, let's do some rapid fire.
Do it.
Hewitt versus Copper's Cove.
I like this matchup. Give me Midway, though. I'll take Midway.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Hewitt Midway, my bad. Glen Rose at Fort Worth Dunbar.
Give me the Glen Rose Tigers.
All right, Temple Wildcats at Killeen Harker Heights. If Temple wins, they're in.
That's a great game. Is this game being played at Wildcat Stadium or at
This is at Leo Buckley and Killeen.
Leo Buckley? I like Harker Heights in this one.
Hillsboro at Godley. Hillsboro's got to win by 17 and then have some other things happen to get to the playoffs.
I think this is a winnable game for Hillsboro, but intuition's telling me Godly, so give me the Wildcats.
Let's see. I'm gonna Valley Mills at Rio. This game doesn't mean anything, but
yeah.
What do you think about this one?
I like Rio Vista in that one. I think it'll be a close game. I think that's got a chance to be a shootout as well. I mean, but Valley Mills again, they've secured a playoff spot, right? So they might not play the guys for all 4 quarters just to try to keep especially like Jay Sean and their other like lead weapons. I think Rio Vista wins because Valley Mills pulls their starters out maybe at halftime.
How about Robinson at China Spring?
I like the Rockets in that one. Give me Robinson.
Man, here's the one we missed. Brady at Clifton. This is a district championship. Well, let's see. I think they have a couple with 1 loss because early.
Yeah.
Look at the standings here. So, yeah, Brady's 4-0, Clifton's 3-1, Early's 3-1. So, if Clifton beats Brady, then you have the 3-way tie. But Brady at Clifton.
I'll take the Cubs to get the upset win at home.
Now their quarter. So I heard Jackson Ritz is injured and he's out. He's not coming back. So his little brother has stepped in at quarterback and
right.
Did okay last week. Got him a win. Let's see who they played last week. They beat Dublin 56-7. They beat Toller the week before that 22-13. So they did lose the early. Is that right?
They did lose to Early. I do remember that.
They lost to Early, but I thought they beat Toller, then lost to Early. But no, it's backwards.
I think. Oh, and I think Early was their district opener. I could be wrong though. But
yeah. Ritz is quarterback.
I'm still gonna take Clifton though. Give me the Cubs.
All right, Dawson at Italy.
Give me. Ooh, I like Dawson. Give me the Bulldogs.
Let's see. Lorena at Waco La Vega.
La Vega.
Conley at Gatesville.
Gatesville. I like Gatesville in that one.
Lexington at Rogers.
That's not a rivalry game. I'm thinking of Rogers Little River Academy. I like Lexington. It's hard to bet against Case Evans.
All right. Now I'm not trying to be ugly, but this is not a play-in. This is not a playoff seeding game. This is a game to see who doesn't finish in the cellar of the district. Hubbard at Wortham.
I like Wortham in that one.
Tig at Diboll.
Give me Tig.
Franklin at Rockdale.
Franklin.
So this is a weird scenario because if you look at the district standings, Cameron Yale 1-3, McGregor 1-3, Rockdale 1-3. So if they all lose, so they're all playing the top 3 seeds: Troy, Little River, and Franklin. I think McGregor has the greatest chance of winning. They could all end up 1-4, and I guess that's a point deal, and then a coin flip and all that stuff. So that could get complicated. Little River Academy at Cameron Yo.
Give me Academy big in that one.
Marlin at Moody. Moody got eliminated from the playoffs last week, but they're still got a solid squad.
Yeah, I like Marlin in that one though. I'll take the Bulldogs.
How about 8-0 Alvarado at 6-3 Kennedale?
That's a good matchup. Those are teams that have played each other. Seems like every year for the last decade. I like Alvarado though.
All right, we're gonna go east of 45. Winsboro at Malakoff.
God, that's gonna be a fantastic ball game. I like Malakoff in that one though, but by the slightest of margins.
All right, that's all I got, buddy.
All right.
We appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Matt Stepp. And y'all be safe traveling out there. Any last words, Ryan?
Also, thanks to Terry and Brett and everyone at L4 Media for giving us this platform to nerd out and yap about Texas high school football. It's always a lot of fun. And yeah, just go out and watch some football. The playoffs are around the corner. It's a very exciting time of the year.
See y'all.
Right through the people here. These on dusty dreams, yeah, but I ain't let them get to my dreams, yeah. Mama says that she couldn't bear if I'd ever leave, yeah, and you know I couldn't bear to see her cry. Daddy says the farm won't live long without me, but Lord, sometime I think we ought to just let it die. 'Cause I've seen half a lover gone, put up my car, always, and it ain't all there was blowing south. If I tried to fly that way, they tell me